3, 2, 1. Today on the Shrewd Deuce podcast, we're going to talk about many, many amazing things. First of all, we're going to catch up and find out that people have totally gamed the system when it comes to smart cars, proving once again that humans are smarter than smart cars. We're going to have to cover that story. In some other news, Sound of Freedom has been criticized by a lot of people. You're gonna find out. You're gonna want to find out one of the people that's criticized it and how he is not the person that you want to listen to. In some American news, those darn sneaky Dems, they keep trying to put their abortion things in everything, and apparently abortion is also just no different than a headache pill. They're crazy that way. Also, Florida's doing some good stuff. DeSantis is actually standing up for parental rights, and there's some areas that are putting out statements saying that COVID was a bioweapon. So I'm all about that. Politicians are saying dumb things, including our wonderful, illustrious Prime Minister, and you're gonna want to stick around and hear what he's got to say. All of that and so much more today on this episode of the Shrewd Dudes podcast.
Alrighty. So,
Welcome,
we
people.
are back for another Tuesday News Day.
It's on, bro.
And it has been an interesting time.
See?
And
I will say this. I think that I was right about the 3-minute countdown because normally it takes a while for people to jump in. I'm like, we're launching in both feet, we're coming in running. It's great, man. I think that was a good idea.
yeah, it works reasonably
Cool,
well.
man. Yeah, and like they said, it is schnazzy. It is very snazzy.
It took about 2 minutes to set up. So
I mean, we got to give credit to people out there who make these things for us, make our life so much easier.
hey,
But let's get. Well, you literally just
I make
copied
your
and
life
pasted
so
it.
much easier.
That is true. I'll give you that. Credit where credit is due. But
That's
let's
right.
catch up on life and all the crazy goings on that have happened.
Yes.
Since you got stuff to do, I'll start off my weekend. So, we went to a demolition derby on the weekend, and that was fun in the town of Vulcan. So we went to the Canadian capital, the Canadian capital of Star Trek and all things Spock and everything else.
Everything was super civilized to go do some uncivilized things.
Oh, very uncivilized. The cars were crinkling like soda cans. It was fun to watch. Several were like there were several cars that were running around without wheels, literally, the wheels got annihilated. So it was fun to watch. The only downside of that whole thing was that at one point they decided to do an auction halfway through they put all the trucks out there. It was 7 or 8 trucks, and they're like, "Hey, who wants to do an auction?" And we're all like, "Boo!" We're like, it took 20 minutes for them to do that stupid auction. I can explain it, but it's too dumb to explain. Basically, they were auctioning off you can bet on a truck, and if you win, you gain some prize money. Everyone's just like, "This sucks. Yeah. Stop doing this. Super dumb." Yeah. And then Sunday, I got a chance to catch up with an old friend.
Yes.
I think you know this person. She's blonde, and she used to date a friend of yours.
Oh.
You know who it is.
Yes.
And it was fun. We got to try some acai Brazilian dessert that apparently is downtown.
And you also walked at a church.
I did. I really did. Oh my gosh! Like I said, once you become a very serious student of the Bible and you go into apologetics and you learn the Bible very well, you cannot stand bad sermons. Not poor sermons, boring or or just like, I don't know, like not very like, you know, groundbreaking. But when the pastor is legitimately saying like, nope, that is incorrect. Nope, nope, no, no, you're just like, everything he was saying was absolutely brutally wrong. So yeah, that was my weekend. What about you,
Yeah.
man?
My weekend didn't actually do a whole ton.
This is
Um,
my weekend to shine.
yeah, well, you know, having kids, I basically had a bunch of things planned and then didn't do any. I was like, I'm going to do this. Nope. I'm going to do this. Nope. And I'm like, did I do anything on my list? Not really. Nope. So Sunday went for lunch with my parents like I usually do. Wasn't any D&D game on Sunday. Too many people were missing. It's very difficult to plan D&D on in the summer, so that's just the way it is. And then it was actually kind of funny. So there was an entertaining story from work today. Oh, there was a story. Okay, 2 stories from work. One from Friday, one from today. Story from Friday. We're working in this area, and we're doing some weeding and some transportation of materials. Yeah. And there's a bush, and so we're working around this area, and I see my minion, Finian. His name is Finn, but he's my minion, so I call him Finian.
Yes, a Finian.
Yeah, he's Finian. And so we're working in this area, and all I see is him going, ah, 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 and he starts running across the parking lot. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then he comes back, and then he's like, is it still following me? And I'm like, is what still following you? He's like, the wasps. And I'm like, no, there's no wasps after you. And he's like, oh, they stung me. No, they stung him twice. Really? They stung him like once right here on his arm, and then once in between his fingers. And so he actually stayed home today because he had like a bad reaction to either the lingering like poison from the sting or the antibiotics.
Dang, man. Sounds
so serious. Yeah, he was saying that his arm was like puffing up, and I'm like, ooh, dang, that sucks. Dang. And then the story from today was, so my buddy Cade, hi Cade, he's coming with us on the camping trip, so
got a shout out.
We'll have a lot to talk about with him.
Yep.
But so he's been sick the past couple days, and apparently, like, he got tested, and he tested positive for COVID.
Oh, is that still a thing?
Yeah, and so the funny part was, and so he's like, I don't think this is a big deal. Like, why is this a big deal? And my coworker, who's like, it's the mother-son combo, and the mother is like, you were over on Saturday. You got my baby sick. And he's like, what? And apparently, like, she sent him this, like, tirade of texts about how, like, angry she was with him about putting her son at risk. And he's like, but I wasn't sick on Saturday.
And you wonder why, like, having good information is kind of important. Because when you have bad information, you act like those Looney Tunes.
Yep. And so we're all just like, we're all laughing because we're all like, she's still taking this seriously? Really?
It's like people who walk around.
She wore a mask all day. And I'm like,
of course she does. That's an IQ test. It's basically an IQ test for, like,
Anyways, we have been going on, so we do need to jump in because we have a lot of stuff to go through. So we're going to just plow through a lot of this stuff. If you have comments, we're going to try and keep track of it. Of course, we're on Twitch, and we are on Twitter. I don't know why. I literally have shut it off for Restream, and it continues to do this. So I might have to just, like, set up a new Restream account.
Restream is just basically, like,
yeah. It's just screwing me over, so.
Well, okay, one day.
Just the way it is, So, let's jump into the stories of the day. And
Man versus machine.
Yeah, man versus machine. So, annoyed residents disabling self-driving cars by placing traffic cones on their hoods. Activists are calling the protest the Week of Cone. So, this is in San Francisco. They're waging a pitched battle against autonomous vehicles by brandishing a surprising weapon, traffic cones. Because, of course, the self-driving cars see the traffic cones and they cannot proceed forward into the cones.
That's right. They outsmarted the smart cars.
So here's a small
So
video.
what's the deal with the self-driving cars all over SF? These companies promise their cars will reduce traffic and collisions. But instead, they block buses, emergency vehicles, and everyday traffic. They've even unalived a person and a dog. And they're partnering with police to report everyone all the time without anyone's consent. And most importantly, they require streets that are designed for cars, not people or transit. They exist only for profit-driven car companies to stay dominant and make it harder for transit to stay afloat. But we can do something about it.
No.
First, find a cone.
Hey, cat.
They're everywhere.
Yep.
They're nowhere near this prominent
Then
in
gently
Calgary.
place it on the car's hood. Make sure their car is empty. And repeat. It's really fun and anyone can do
It's really
it.
fun.
Yep.
Thursday, July
it
13th, there's a
created
state
a hack.
hearing for these companies to expand operations.
Oh my
in SF.
gosh.
Yeah. It's a
How
hack.
many
We
cars
not
did they
consent
hit?
to this.
Like a lot.
This week,
Oh my goodness.
So
That's
apparently
funny.
the way it works, I was reading the article. Apparently the way it works is the sensor that connects to like the mothership, essentially like that communicates with the home base, is located right there. So if you put a cone there, you cut off the connection, and so it literally sits there waiting for instructions. And so you basically disable the car, and they literally have to send somebody to go get it, or to basically remove the traffic cone. So I like this story because I'm like, I mean, AI will one day be way like completely outsmart us and be smarter, but not today, my friend. Not today. The AI cars are still dumb. We have won this round
We have won this round.
of man versus machine.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And not to be outdone, the Germans are also winning the battle against like basically automatons. These are humanoid bots. Take it.
Okay, yep. So next story from Summit News. Germans have had it with eco-protesters sitting in the road.
Mm-hmm.
Everyday people in Germany are done with tolerating climate alarmists, and the eco-loons have seized on the fact that it's hot and sunny. They're doing it as usual by sitting in the road or even gluing themselves to the road. They've had a spate of such protests, but people are having none of it anymore. So let's just watch this video of what people do to punish these protesters. Let's just revel in that.
Put it down a bit.
Put it down?
Goes right by you. Are they spraying those cars?
Is he? It's
Yeah.
so hard to tell.
No, look at the left side. Somebody's spraying the car. Right there.
No, that was just lens glare.
Is it?
Yeah. Like, there's a lens flare right there. That's a lens flare.
Oh, it looked like somebody was spraying. Okay. But that's not actually the video. It's like a little below that.
Just
Where
knocks
people
him
are
over.
They're just being dragged off the road. Right there. Yep.
Very
Just
similar
there.
to other videos of such things
Yep.
happening.
Very similar.
He's like, time to go. Time to go.
Let's go, honey. Let's go. It's over,
Yeah.
honey. The best part is like here's a life hack for all of you. If you ever encounter these people on the road, they have a very repeatable and very like regular MO. This is how they operate. They go with their little climate lunatic buddies. They sit into the middle of the street and they sit there. And if somebody grabs them, pulls them off the road, they don't put up a fight. They let them drag them off the road, and then they'll just get up and go back onto the street. Guess what? Guess what you can do as a civic duty to help out your community? You grab these idiots, drag them off the road, and sit on them. And you just have a nice little afternoon sitting on a climate idiot. I'm like, I mean,
Sitting.
just get a couple of buddies. Go grab yourself a climate lunatic that's sitting on the road and go and grab them and sit on them. And if they complain, be like, "Oh, I'm doing an anti-climate protest. I do my anti-climate protest by sitting on climate protesters. This is my protest." just go and do it. I would love to do that. I would love to spend an afternoon sitting there, and you're doing a civic duty. You're clearing the roads. I'm like, hey, what better way to spend an afternoon than helping your fellow man by removing these
lunatics.
lunatic, human pine cones or traffic
human
cones.
human pylons.
Yeah,
traffic
human
cones.
pylons. These are human pylons, basically. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would
But
gladly
we
spend
do
my
have to
day
move
doing
on. So we're going to talk about the mental equivalent of pylons or traffic cones.
Oh,
Those who would sacrifice their college admissions for people of color.
or would they?
Or would they?
Here's the video.
So here's the
Yeah,
video.
listen to
Let's
the video.
watch.
Would you give up your college spot for a person of color?
Yeah.
Sure.
Should a white person voluntarily give up their college spot for you?
Skin color shouldn't matter to begin with.
No.
No. The logic behind affirmative action is that it brings other people's experiences to the college.
It's not to do with race. Whoever student is the best student should get their application. You know, should get accepted.
Hey!
The thing with affirmative action is, number one, it is to we need diversity in everywhere we are.
No,
Colleges
not
look
forced
for when
diversity.
accepting new college students.
They should probably start with their education first because they need an extension of the education. So your color don't tell you if you smart, stupid, dumb. That don't have nothing to do with nothing.
Average white person now has more opportunities to get better grades and to get in college than people of other races and backgrounds.
Why do you think colleges should not take race into consideration?
Because it's not relevant. Why would you? Because how are you getting to college? You need grades, right? So look at the grades. Don't worry about anything else but the grades.
It's fixing
Amen.
400 years of injustice.
No,
Maybe we should do something where you kind of take the names
Yeah,
up of all
lunatic.
applications and you kind of just leave it to the merits and also the extracurriculars, their essays.
I'm down
just
with
the
that.
normal stuff
I'm
you're
down with
supposed
that.
to look at. Yeah, your merits, like what are your grades, what are your extracurriculars, what are your test scores, and yeah, what are your essays like?
The other thing is
That girl's
look
smart.
at redlining and the fact that
Ugh.
the opportunities
Just
to
eye rolls whenever
provide
this
so
woman
much
starts
value,
talking.
so much
so
opportunity
indoctrinated.
for wealth. That was not because of redlining.
Stop.
Was not an opportunity.
watching
for most Black
MSNBC.
Americans
No, I
in
just
this
had to
country.
stop watching her because she's so annoying. My
It's
goodness.
brutal, hey? This is like all those videos.
You have the
like,
mental acuity of a traffic cone.
no, like, that's an insult to traffic cones.
It is, traffic cones serve a purpose.
Yeah, they actually serve an actual viable purpose. She serves no purpose other than like
Yeah.
no, there's no
Net
purpose.
negative.
What do you think about that whole nonsense there?
Oh
Like-
my goodness. Well, like this is we've seen this before. It's always the white liberals who always want to try and push this narrative, be like, "Oh my gosh, like the blacks are so oppressed, the minorities
Yeah.
are in the worst situation." And then
Yeah.
of course they talk to black people, they talk to
Yeah.
other minorities, and they're like, "No,
you
we
talking
want a
about,
merit-based application. We don't want to get in because of our skin color."
Yeah.
Like there are people who will be like, "Yes, I got in." It's like, but what if
In
you
the
got in
sense-
via your skin color, like Ketanji Brown Jackson?
and Joy Reid.
And well, there's a long list.
Bragg
Kamala Harris.
Yep, she got in because
She
of her
got
skin
it.
color.
Well, she got in because of her skin color and because she's very good, apparently, on her knees.
and we ain't talking about no prayer time.
No, definitely
this
not in any prayer time. Definitely not in any prayer time.
Oh no! Did you see that video by Amy Horowitz, one of my favorite ones, where he asked people about like the idea of like why voter ID laws are like racist, and then he goes to a black community like, do you know where the DMV is? Like, oh yeah, it's just over
It's,
there.
it's down there, like they're giving directions, and he's
you
like,
have,
no,
like,
no, no, no. That's not what I'm asking.
Do you have an ID? Of like, of course I do. Like, does everyone in your family have an ID? Like, yeah, everybody has an ID. What are you talking about? Of course we have an ID. And it's like, well, people think that you can't get an ID. It's like, what that crap kind of person thinks we can't get an ID, right? It's amazing to me. It's like legitimate racism, not just like even pretend racism. It's like legitimate, like the what's it called, the bigotry of low expectations.
Yep,
is what they are.
bigotry of low expectations.
Oh my goodness.
So let's
last story.
continue. Yep, last story, which unfortunately sometimes we
Like
really
Michael.
don't. From Philadelphia, I have no expectations from Philly. I might be bigoted for having no expectations, but it's still bad.
I mean,
Shocking new
Philly is-
video from the streets, not the sheets of
From
Philadelphia.
the sheets.
From the sheets to the streets.
Streets.
The disaster has been fueled by the rise of the drug xylazine, known as tranq, a lethal sedative that is used to enhance the effects of heroin and cocaine. Oh yeah,
Wow.
that's totally a thing you should be taking.
That's what you need. It's like,
You
this
need
heroin
this
literally almost
cocaine.
killed me. I
Yeah.
need a little enhancement on my
I need an
heroin.
enhancement.
I need more bang for my cocaine bucks. Oh my gosh.
So, Shelley, quickly, the rumor is.
You want a link?
I'm not gonna give you a link. I'm just gonna tell you that you can do some research on your own. But there is, if you look up Willie Brown, Kamala Harris, then it will likely come up with some sort of reference to the fact that he has basically claimed that Kamala Harris got where she was because he slept with her and did favors of that sort. So, but let's watch this video from.
I feel like it's gonna be like I feel like it's gonna be like living the Walking Dead, but nowhere near as like fun.
Yeah. So let's just check it out.
Check it out, bro.
Okay, so is it this one? The Trank Addicts?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so.
Okay.
Dang!
What the heck?
Whoa! They're literally just like. Oh wow! They're not even just standing there, like in like a trance. They're literally like almost like standing and just hanging.
Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah, you ever seen anything like that?
No. It's crazy.
Like I've seen people that are so out of it.
Around in the
They're
streets.
They're standing still, but not like that. Not where they're hanging.
India, and actually this is back in the 90s.
That is nuts. Like they're literally hanging there, like tent poles
They're
almost.
hanging on.
Dang, that's crazy.
Oof. That's absolutely mind-blowing.
I mean, there's
Absolutely
crack, and then there's like crack on, like.
Well, that's not
super
even crack, though.
Super crack. I know it's cocaine.
Yeah. Shelley says heroin. Well, not. She says heroic addicts, but it's heroin. I'm sure that she's referencing.
It's like,
yeah,
that
no,
man's a hero.
So
that man's a hero. He took
kind of
4 shots of heroin.
Info
He's a
on
hero.
drugs, because I have a basic understanding of these things. So, cocaine is an upper, and heroin is a downer. So it's interesting that Trank is used for both. Because, yeah, like your body, if you take both cocaine and heroin, your body has a crazy reaction. Damn. I know this partially because I did some pharmacology classes, and because I was in roofing for a year, and roofers take a lot of drugs. One of my best friends in roofing said, "Oh, I just do crack." I mean, no, I just do coke. I don't do meth. And I'm like, well, that's a good thing that you don't do meth, but oh yeah, you just do coke.
He's on the hierarchy, like low on the hierarchy of like, super bad drugs.
And then I'll tell other people. Oh yeah, they do take roofies. They do.
The win.
Yeah. No, that's not even like a funny. That's not even like a funny joke. It's literally like the one guy. He's like, yeah, I took this, and we're like, isn't that like the date rape drug? And he's like, yeah, I did. I would give it to myself, and I'm like,
I sure hope I don't get raped tonight. I hope no one's feeling rapey.
Oh man, my old foreman, I was just like, you insane? Why are you taking this?
Oh gosh.
Apparently, he did a drug test, and like the drug test from like I think it was the past like 2 weeks that was found in his urine was like 2 pages of content. It was like 20 different substances, and I'm like, what the heck are you taking? My goodness, that was ridiculous.
That is crazy. But speaking of people that must be on something in order to write the kind of crap that they write, let's talk about the opinion piece that was published in Bloomberg and also reposted on Washington Post.
Bloomberg. What nuts?
Bloomberg. Bring it up, bro.
Yep. Okay, so QAnon and Sound of Freedom. This is, of course, from a Bloomberg opinion piece, and it's crazy. Sound of Freedom both rely on tired Hollywood tropes. Sex trafficking movies routinely skip over some very important questions, which gives the conspiratorial right room to run wild. Donald Trump plans to screen the film Sound of Freedom at his New Jersey golf club next week. The film about agents fighting a child sex trafficking ring has been embraced by the far right and Christians who have helped boost it to more than 50 million receipts at the box office. It's now close to 100.
Yeah, it's really up there. This is from July 15th, right?
Yeah, this is 3 days ago.
Yeah, so 3 days ago. Imagine that. 3
Oh,
days.
it's going. I was like telling my parents that they should go see it. They have my 2 older kids this week.
Okay.
But yeah, we won't have an opportunity to have the younger kids go. So
that's right. The by the way, I posted a Facebook message after I saw it. That message has gotten so much traction. I'm like, wow, everyone's responding just to the fact that I'm saying like, yeah, it was a good movie. Like 50 likes. I'm like, whoa, what the heck? It's crazy. So yeah, go up. Yeah, keep reading from this guy.
Okay. So, yeah, many critics have linked the Sound of Freedom to the pro-Trump QAnon conspiracy cult that have been started by the mainstream success, but the truths of the conspiratorial right and the Hollywood default aren't that different. Really?
By the way, one little thing on that is that this movie was made over 5 years ago, before QAnon was even like a thing. Before QAnon didn't even exist when this movie was being made. So like the bad it's QAnon. Like
it's QAnon.
Yeah, you didn't do any homework on this movie at all, did you?
Yeah,
Good job,
the
bro.
film is controversial because the man in the movie is about former Homeland Security operative Tim Ballard, and the actor who plays him both have links to QAnon. Ballard has promoted the baseless claim that furniture retailer Wayfair was involved in child sex trafficking. Caviezel has spoken at multiple QAnon events. In an interview with former Trump advisor Steve Bannon, he promoted one of the cult's most outrageous conspiracy theories, claiming that child sex traffickers drain their victims' blood to create a serum to prevent aging.
That's what this movie didn't even touch on.
No, didn't even talk about.
Didn't even go anywhere near that.
Yep. So I'm not going to give you the rundown of the film.
Yeah, basically the guy in this article made all sorts of like ridiculous claims, like he said oh well, most people who get abused are by family members or or older. It's like, yeah, none of that. The movie didn't deny any of that. The movie was shining a light on a very specific part of human trafficking, and this guy's basically trying to make it sound like this movie's crazy. Now, the one thing that that came out this week that was interesting is that the guy who wrote this, which shame on Bloomberg and shame on Washington Post for following this up, is the guy who actually wrote this opinion piece is a notorious pedophile. And I don't just throw that lightly. He is actually a pedophile, and he has said so in various things. So take us through that.
Noah Berlatsky. He's just your average lower mainstream media news contributor. Ironically, Berlatsky's latest criticism of the drama focusing on the grave yet glossed over issue of child trafficking lambasted the movie with vitriolic scorn for perpetuating dangerous tropes, while he himself turned to the truly tired trope, accusing the movie of packaging together various QAnon conspiracy theories and being a movie made for alt-right boomers. There's just one problem. Berlatsky has a sordid history of advocating for the normalization of pedophilia.
Yeah.
He was named the communication director at Prostasia, a nonprofit organization which has dedicated itself to self-admission of protecting children from sexual abuse. While that on its face sounds antithetical to advocating for the normalization of pedophilia, a deeper look into his publicized content shows it merely masquerades under the guise of acting in the interest of protecting children from sexual abuse in order to promote such a much more perverse ulterior motive.
Yeah. Check out that. So this
is Andy No.
Mm-hmm.
So the person who wrote this opinion is a leftist activist. He wrote the spokesperson. He's the spokesperson for MAP advocacy group Prostasia. Previously tweeted that pedophiles are a stigmatized group designated as deviants for hateful purposes. He also called sex offenders registries racist.
Yeah, click on the images when you see. So pedophiles are essentially a stigmatized group. Certain people get designated as deviants. People hate them
for good reason.
Those poor unfortunate souls.
Young people of any gender who trade sex face arrest and abuse from police. No one is very interested in helping them. The issue isn't that people care about the victims. The issue is that pedophiles are loathed.
That's the issue.
What?
That's the real problem. Mm-hmm.
This quote,
DP?
This dipshit, is on his TL loudly proclaiming allyship with black people and then attacking people for supporting people targeted by the criminal justice system. Shocker, sex offender registries are as racist as the rest of the criminal justice system.
Yeah. It's this guy is, Yeah, this guy is a very like so you have to remember that people who actively and very aggressively try to advocate for not only like not only the destigmatization of pedophilia, like to make it like normalized, but also like try to like reframe like the people who are hurting children as like the good guys, and who actually try to like go after movies that are actually trying to stop the people who are absolutely undeniably like hurting kids. The fact that he's trying to basically that he's trying to um criticize and stigmatize a movie that is shining a light to an actual problem shows what this guy's interests like really lie. So it's crazy because like a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that that this movie is like being overlooked by a lot of people, or is being overlooked or trying to be suppressed by people in Hollywood, and Hollywood is rank with all sorts of like real problems in terms of like child
Mhm.
abuse and child
Yeah, no
abuse
kidding.
allegations.
Well,
What was that guy's
like
name?
we've talked about this before.
Corey Feldman.
Corey
I mean, it
Feldman.
goes all the way back to Corey Feldman,
Yeah.
all the way up till now. It's insane how bad Hollywood is. It's
Oh yeah,
nasty.
well, like, there's a reason that Disney turned down this film, that Netflix turned down this film, that Amazon turned down this film, that Apple turned down this film, and that it had to be released by a tertiary production company named Angel Studios.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how far down the list they had to go to find a production company that would actually be willing to release this film. And that is shameful for all of Hollywood and all of the film industry right now.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, one more thing. This is right after his comments, his highlighted comments on the article. If you go
Yeah.
back to the article
Okay.
about Berlinski or Belatsky, it says, despite Berlatsky's opposition to the structure, right after this, of the nuclear family, the author is married with children. However, his family would be described as anything but traditional. In February 23, my wife is bisexual and non-binary. My daughter is transgender. My queer family helped me better understand myself and my masculinity. Berlatsky paints a picture of the kind of life his radical ideologies molded his family into. Throughout the piece, Berlatsky chronicles his daughter's descent into gender dysphoria, beginning with middle school. And then by high school, she was convinced she was a transgender lesbian. That's the thing. Like, people who are in this cult, they drag other people with them.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, this is why it's almost guaranteed, almost virtually guaranteed, that if you have a vapid, like rabid, like activist like this person, that it's going to result in like transgender or bisexual children. Like it's almost undeniable. So this man, like he works for Prostasia, which is like an advocacy group trying to normalize pedophilia, and yeah, he's just one of many, but he's by far the most obvious one. And the fact that mainstream media like Bloomberg or Washington Post is platforming a guy like this, a guy who has incredibly like massive skeletons in his closet, shows you how you shouldn't be listening to the Washington Post or Bloomberg, because they're actually putting somebody like this and giving them a voice and saying like, hey, a pedophile apologist is saying that we shouldn't watch this movie. Maybe you should think twice before you like support like Washington Post, eh? Like it's the kind of thing that nobody. Yeah.
Reading here what Conqueror is saying. So like there are a lot of people some people who are attacking the film simply because Carlos Slim was the one that was funding it. And like I totally agree with Conqueror. Who cares where the funds came from to make this film? Like I care a little bit. But it doesn't justify the attacks that the film is getting. And if we're attacking based on funding and based on like who owns certain, like if we actually go through, I think there was one guy and there was like this there was this TikTok video, and I think it was called like United States of BlackRock.
Okay.
BlackRock owns like 5 to 10%
of almost more major companies, right?
in most major companies and pretty much every news organization, every major news organization. Like they have a stock in CNN and MSNBC, in Timcast News, in like you could go down the list and name it. It's absolutely crazy. Let's
You gonna look it up?
Well, it's just this video of this person, Amazing Polly. And yeah, like you'd have to watch a decent amount of her videos. But it would be interesting to go over at like a spare time, but just don't have
No, you don't have the
time to go through it. But we do have to kind of switch topics because we're like 5 or 6 stories in, and we have another 18, and we're already 38 minutes into the show.
Those were stories that were worth taking some time. These are stories that we're kind of like just going to mention some of the things and some of the interesting parts of it.
So quickly from One America News, U.S. orders additional deployment of jets, warships to the Middle East.
That's crazy.
Interesting thing. So, quote, in response to a recent number of alarming events in the Strait of Hormuz, the Secretary of Defense has ordered the deployment of the destroyer USS Thomas Hudner F-35 and F-16 fighters to the Central Command area of responsibility to defend the United States interests and safeguard freedom of navigation in the region. So that's interesting, I guess. Something else which is also interesting and much more potent and much more relevant. Let's talk about John Kirby. Or at least let's watch this video of John Kirby.
Speaking of the military,
just demanding and saying how sacred abortion rights are for military service members. So let's just watch that. I'm going to go back
on abortion critical to military readiness.
I'm really glad you asked that question. I mean,
I can pontificate.
1 in 5 members of the U.S. military are women. 20%.
Okay.
We're an all-volunteer force. Nobody's forcing you to sign up and go. People volunteer to go. You raise your right hand and you say, I'm gonna do this for a few years or even for my life. And it might cost me my life to do it. And when you sign up and you make that contract, you have every right to expect that the organization, in this case the military, is going to take care of you, and they're going to take care of your families. And they're going to make sure that you can serve with dignity and respect, no matter who you are or who you love.
By killing your child.
Or how you worship or don't. And our policies, whether they're diversity, inclusion, and equity, or whether they're about transgender individuals who qualify physically and mentally to serve, to be able to do it.
Which are none.
Or whether it's about female service members, 1 in 5, or female family members being able to count on the kinds of health care and reproductive care.
It's not health care.
No, it's not.
To serve.
They don't need it.
That is a foundation.
I hate that talking point.
Oh, it's
with
so bad.
Passion. Healthcare is supposed to help people recover from illness or recover from some kind of like accident or harm. That healthcare is supposed to restore your physical abilities and help you to get back to health. Like this is the biggest lie that they throw out at you.
Oh yeah.
It is not healthcare, it is executions.
Yeah.
It is basically hiring a hitman called the abortion doctor to kill the child that is going to be inconvenient for you. It is such a horrible lie, and they try to like mask it or they try to hide it under the thing that called healthcare. It's not healthcare.
No.
Just like euthanasia here in Canada is
it's
not
healthcare.
No, it is death care.
Yeah.
Totally different thing. Actually, doctors should never be doing anything even remotely like
either of these things.
And either of these things, because this is them killing people, not saving or helping.
Let's keep going.
Go ahead.
Foundational, sacred obligation
Sacred.
of military leaders across the river. I've seen it myself, and it matters because it says we're investing.
If you had actually seen an
in
abortion, you would not support it.
Are being willing to invest in us. You're investing your life, your family's livelihood with us. We owe you that back in return.
No, we do not owe you
that. Weeks ago to meet with some military spouses here at the White House.
Well, one of the interesting things is he's providing a very good argument for one thing. Do you know what that one thing is, Danny?
Money?
Nope. Removing women from the military.
He's removing women from the
No,
military.
no, he's creating a very good argument for removing. So if his argument is that if women are in the military, that we need to be paying. Stop it!
Playing on you.
It has autoplay. It's so annoying. That's like the worst thing about Fox News video. It autoplays every single damn time. But what he is doing, what he is saying, is that if... What are we... I don't know why we switched over to video. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm hoping people didn't miss that.
That is interesting.
I have no idea what just happened. Like, OBS just decided to, like, switch a whole bunch of things over on me, and I'm like, what is going on?
The AI is taking
The
over.
AI is taking over my
AI is
OBS
taking
studio.
over. That's right.
So-
The robot cars are taking the revenge on
the-
Steven. Be like, we are taking over. All hail Elon.
I won't let them.
But yeah, finish your point.
Yeah. So, but what he is making an argument for is if you have this sacred duty, if you have this obligation that the American government has to pay military service members for their abortions, then if you're making that argument, then it's the best argument for saying that women shouldn't be allowed in the military. Because if you're demanding that they have to be given this ability to kill their own kids, which is counterintuitive to their dedication and their oath to the military, because their oath to the military is that you will sacrifice, even if it takes it, your life for your country and your life for the nations and the values which it stands for. Mm-hmm. But then you're demanding, oh no, I'm saying that I might be willing to do this, but if I'm willing to do this, then you have to be willing to be able to let me be selfish. To pay for me being able to kill my own children.
Yeah. By the way, one interesting point about this whole thing. Right now, the American military, the U.S. military, they're in this weird place where we've basically been at peacetime for a very long time. And it's only during peacetime that you can have ridiculous things like saying like, oh, I'm transgender and I need you to pay for my mental health, like medicine and all this kind of stuff. Like that, none of that would ever fly in the middle of an actual active war. If you're in a war, all of that stuff goes out the window. It's all about whether or not you are resilient and you are tough and you can handle the incredible horrors and difficulties of war. Like, we cannot have people who are mentally ill on the battlefield. You can't have a guy in the dress being like, "Oh my God, they didn't affirm my pronouns." I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Mm-hmm.
So I think if the U.S. ever got into a war with this kind of mindset in their military, they're going to be absolutely demolished, because this only flies during peacetime. And sadly, I don't think they're prepared for the actual rigors of war if they ever come our way. It's going to be a very, very bad wake up call when the U.S. military if they don't fix this quick. So, anyways, let's move on to the next story. Wuhan lab leak so friggin' likely.
Wait,
No, we're not doing that story.
There's one more story in between that.
What's the
one? So it's a video from Trending Politics. Woman poses as girl, bus NYC healthcare provider offering kids trans services. In an unsettling expose, an unnamed woman disguised herself as a transgender teenager seeking assistance, uncovering questionable practices within the healthcare sector.
Heard about this one.
So it was targeted at the Community Healthcare Network, a local provider. By posing as a 14-year-old trans individual, the woman aimed to discover whether the healthcare provider would extend services without seeking parental consent. The ploy started with the woman introducing herself as Kelly, a 14-year-old. And after reaching out to CHN, Kelly relayed her hypothetical predicament, claiming to be a 14-year-old transgender, struggling to find support from her parents. The representative, identified as Brian, outlined several services, including primary care, hormonal therapy, and mental health services, suggesting the provider could cater to her needs. What followed raised critical ethical and legal concerns when Kelly expressed fear about her parents discovering mental help or seeking help. Brian suggested a practice known as Code Cindy. Codex Cindy, as explained by Brian, is a privacy measure that restricts the sharing of patient information with third parties, prevents mail from being sent to the home address, and limits the disclosure of information to anyone other than the patient themselves.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't...
So you can find the video for this from gays against groomers.
Not for groomers. Gays
Yeah,
against
not gays for groomers. So yeah, it's a 10-minute video,
Yeah, it's an
but
expose that we did.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
By the way, all of this works because they're normalizing, like basically like secrecy. Secrecy is the calling card and the most vital part of any kind of grooming action, like particularly grooming, sexual grooming of children. It's requires very, very seriously requires you keeping secrets from your parents. The fact that like parents like that schools and organizations like this are advocating for secrecy should be a giant red flag, a red flag of massive proportions. Because if you're a parent and you have like you come home, your kids told you like, oh, the babysitter told us like not to tell you about what we did last night, last night. You'd be like, ring, ring, ring. Every warning would go off upstairs because that is insanely dangerous and suspect behavior when they're trying to keep secrets from you, right? But no. In this case, they're the good guys. They can never do wrong. Abuse would like the idea that they want to abuse or take advantage or lead kids to harmful behavior that they would ever do that. Oh no, they're benevolent angels would never
Angels.
take advantage of a child. Like it's insane to me that this is happening. Anyways, yeah. So good on Gays Against Groomers because they do a fantastic job of
Yes.
Of actually launching this expose.
All right, but now we go on to what Danny was talking about.
The Wuhan lab leak.
Wuhan lab leak, so friggin' likely. So even credentialed scientists began to be disciplined by sites like Facebook, which took direction from government health authorities and prohibited statements about the virus being man-made or manufactured. Later, it turned out that Farrar referenced the Zero Hedge article in a letter to Fauci not long after the site was suspended. So on February 5th, 2020, a small group of scientists were crafting a Nature magazine article that would become a basis for years of reporting insisting COVID-19 had natural origins. One of the co-authors, Tulane's Dr. Robert Gary, wrote in a group email. As detailed in an explosive public story today, Gary's thinking changed suddenly when the New York Times reporter Donald McNeil asked the next day, is there any possibility that it could be from the Wuhan lab? So Gary warned McNeil was credible, but unlike any reporter, could be misled. Cheering colleague Dr. Andrew Rambeau's scientific version of non-denial denial is good, honest response. So we've known about this for a while. This is
more information is coming out. Obviously, here's the thing. Here's the takeaway from this. Anybody who either pushed the lab leak hypothesis or like that pushed the natural origins and advocated for punishing people who shared the opposite, every single one of those people should be automatically like labeled like scarlet letter. You've lost all credibility. If there's a New York Times reporter who advocated for people being like deplatformed, I'm like, I don't care how sorry you feel. No, you're basically like you're anathema. You like everything you say is now suspect. If you were like the president of the United States, if you were like some member of Congress calling for people like to be like basically deplatformed, shut down, or silenced for saying that that they may come from the lab, every one of you should be completely and totally like treated like not everything you say is suspect. Not a single thing you say is believable, because it's that's the thing I hated most about the lab leak thing, is that people can flagrantly push something, say oh, we're say it's dangerous and horrible, and then afterwards be like, oop, mea culpa, oops, we made a little tiny mistake, whoopsie, but the damage is done. It's the whoopsie effect.
Oh yeah, it is.
Oh, whoopsie, no consequences for us. It's like, no, this is like one of the biggest and most insane cover-ups. And it was intentionally done by high-level people in the government. Like, every one of these people should be under investigation. Like, it's amazing to me that people are not held accountable for this level of lying, and that people can basically, like, lie or actually, like, spread, like, completely false ideas and never face any consequence for doing so. that's one of the biggest downside. One of the biggest um what would you call it? Tragedies of COVID.
Yep.
Nobody had to pay a price for their horrible actions. No police officer had to pay a price for destroying people's lives and destroying people's businesses, right?
Yikes.
And these doctors who lied, none of them paid a price. There was yikes.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, that's what I got to say about that. So
that's what you got to say about it. So from DC Inquirer, watch DeSantis blast protesters at the events. We don't want you indoctrinating our children. Leave our kids alone.
Amen.
So let's go for it. Let's watch this video.
Good. He's sitting here talking about all of our children. I have something to say to him. Why don't you focus on spending more time with your granddaughter in Arkansas, or at least acknowledge she exists?
Wow. Well said.
Before you worry about our children. And they shouldn't be worrying about our children either. We don't want you indoctrinating our children. Leave our kids alone.
DeSantis.
Yep.
That's right.
One of the creepiest things is when you have somebody who, like, somebody who's not in your family telling you how you should be raising your kid. Have you ever had that, Stephen?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. People outside your family telling you how you're supposed to be, how you're supposed to parent and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's like, it depends whether it's like small things or it's like serious decisions. Like if you have somebody being like, oh, like, try giving your kids this, like my kids like this, yada yada, like it was a helpful way of getting like vegetables. Like that's one thing. But if you're like, oh no, you need to be raising your children to be more tolerant, because if they're raised by you, then they'll be bigoted and hateful, which I hear all the time because I have a fairly active Twitter account and we have like dedicated stalkers. So
Well, Stephen, what if somebody came to your house, picked up your kids without your knowledge, took them out for veggie burgers, and basically told them, like, we're doing this for their own good because, meat is murder. Meat is murder. And we have to these are our kids. They belong to everyone. And then they drop them off at the end of the day after giving them their veggie burgers and filling their heads with lies. How would you feel about that?
Well, yeah, like if you're coming there and you're interfering in our kids' lives and you're indoctrinating them with absolute insanity, and of course, like, we're talking about stuff in our modern culture, like if we're talking about the brainwashing that the public schools are committing against kids, then yeah, like this is a level of brainwashing that is absolutely unacceptable, and we need to stand up. Like, it is absolutely shameful for the Christian community here in Canada that we have basically ignored the suffering of children in the public schools. And it's just like, oh, like, put your kids in a private school. Yes, I agree with that. I agree that we should be putting our children in private schools, but we should be protecting our children from the brainwashing and the societal degradation that is being pushed upon our culture. And we do not want our children to become prey to this societal contagion. And that's what a lot of this LGBTQ push is. You do not have a massive exponential increase from 1% to 10%. And then in Brown University, they did a study last week, did a survey, 38% of students at Brown University identify as LGBTQ.
Oh, it's just always been there, Stephen. We've just been hiding. That's
whereas, like, 30 years ago, when I was born in 1991, if you asked that same question, you'd have like a fraction of 1%. A fraction.
Yeah, it'd be like really low, like super crazy low.
You do not have a massive increase of 1,000, like not even just 1,000%, but like 10,000% in 30 years. It's unheard of, and it has nothing, and it's entirely to do with the fact that this is being pushed on children. Because children do not have a chance to consent, and they do not have an ability to say no, because they're not prepared for these conversations.
They're also a captive audience, which is
they are.
Which makes it impossible because kids are not allowed and are taught not to question, not to push back against authority. They're taught to listen to your teachers and all that kind of stuff. And so what happens is schools are no longer just like bad places that kids aren't learning enough. It's like they're now dangerous because schools are engaging in a form of part-time legalized kidnapping. It's what they are, because during that day they own them and they feel like, we're your parents now and we get to do whatever we want, and they basically act like they make their children live a double life, and they feel totally empowered to do that and to keep it from you. Like, these people are like, these are very deranged people. And so, yeah, good for parents everywhere who are finally finding out. One of the most amazing blessings that COVID gave us was that during COVID, parents found out what was really being
What was
taught in
really
their
being taught in schools?
And so, because we have to remember, all of these like school boards, these teachers unions, and all this kind of stuff, they were pushing this secretly. If you're a parent, you're not allowed to look at the curriculum. You're not allowed to know what's being taught in your school or being force fed down your kids' throats. And people were the first time that people found out what kind of like literal like mind virus garbage was being taught to their kids was during COVID. So it's insane. And so, yeah, good on Ron DeSantis is now part of a growing trend of people who are saying like, yeah, this is insanity. It has to stop. By the way, in Tampa, sorry, in Florida, I'm actually really proud. There's a lot of like, there's a lot of like, specific areas that are voting to declare the jibby jabs a bioweapon, which is interesting. That's the next story. Go ahead.
So, from the Tampa Bay Times, COVID jibby jab is a biological weapon. A resolution by the party makes several false assertions making the claims. Okay? Hillsborough County Republican Party has made the 7th local party in the state to pass a resolution calling COVID-19 and the jibby jabs a biological and technical weapon, and the jibby... Oh, yes. They say the end the vaccine twice. Use a denial of informed consent and crimes against humanity. The resolution asked Governor Ron DeSantis to ban the jibby jabs in Florida and seize all supplies of the jibby jabs in the state. The resolution originated with Joseph Sanson, a Lee County psychotherapist who specializes in hypnosis, according to his website. He said 6 previous county-level Republican executive committees, the organization's precinct representatives that govern the local party chapters, have passed it. So the resolution asserts, quote, falsely, according to an AP fact check, that the jibby jab alters human DNA. In an interview, Sanson said also, falsely, according to AP fact checking, that the jibby jabs caused numerous miscarriages, which, like, it did.
It did, and so in the places
says an enormous number of humans have died or been permanently disabled by the jibby jabs. Also true. Which is part of an enormous fraud by the government agencies, media, and tech companies under the corporation. The resolution talks about blood clotting, which has been studied as a rare side of not rare of some jibby jabs, but it doesn't mention that. Yeah, this is a total lie.
Yeah, this is a fact
total
check.
BS.
It's a leftist fact check pretending to be like journalism.
Yeah,
but the base notion is I'm really happy that there are governments out there that are actually like that they finally stopped playing the game, and they're just going straight through the info, the facts, doing all their own research and coming to their conclusions, and they actually like come to a conclusion that I actually agree with. Now, the scale of how much these things are a bioweapon, that can be like debated, of course, but there's a lot of information out there that you can basically make a compelling case that these are bioweapons, not necessarily like super deadly, massive body count kind of bioweapons, but they're body weapons in various different ways, including the fact that these are gain of function creations. That kind of feeds into that. So good on I'm glad that the governments are finally starting to be brave enough to say, yeah, there's a lot of suspect stuff in these things. We should absolutely look into banning this. I actually would be 100% in support of banning these things because the amount of damage and the amount of like lies that have been surrounded this require. I think that they should require a massive like inquiry to completely and totally reevaluate everything because they were rushed because people were scared. And so like, oh, we're scared. Do everything you can. Skip all the safety testing, and just kind of give us like like our magic potion that's gonna like save us all. I'm like, no, you need to go back and reevaluate and do everything over again, and follow the proper procedures and stop giving these people like just like unlimited money. So good on these governments. I'm happy. I'm hoping that more and more people will start coming around and seeing that these were nothing but loss. No, like I wouldn't even say little gain. I don't even think they had any actual gain. Anyways, go on.
Yep.
Let's go,
Okay,
man.
so next story. Kamala Harris has a gaffe. Says the United States must reduce population
A lot of gaffes.
to fight climate change and latest gaffe. So on Friday, she called on the United States to reduce population in an effort to combat climate change. The shocking gaffe happened as the vice president delivers remarks at Coppin State University in Baltimore, Maryland, on need to build a clean energy economy. So let's see if there's a video for that. There is not. But it was good. Let's see if there's if I click on the shocking gaffe.
If it comes up there.
Oh.
Rex, did you do it? No, not there. That's just the headlights.
Just the headlines. Come on, people. So
You
much
should
for
be able to
that.
find it on Twitter. Maybe you can like do a Twitter search.
Maybe I
because
can.
it's short. It's short enough that it's worth it. But by the way, Kamala Harris is one of those people that it's so obvious that she's not going to be able to. There's no way she's going to be the replacement for Biden if he doesn't run. It's clearly going to be somebody else. Now the question is who is it going to be, but it's definitely not going to be Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris, if it's possible,
Invest in clean energy.
There it is. Let's watch.
I don't know if it's possible to be worse than Biden.
When
but
we
she is.
invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population,
Yeeks.
more of our children can breathe clean air.
Because we have fewer children. Oh! How does that work? If we kill people, then the available resources, then there'll be more for those children. And it's like,
is that the one? Are you sure that's the one?
Yes, that's the one.
I thought I saw one where she was actually saying like with less people or like reduce people or something like that.
No, this is what she said.
Okay.
She wants to reduce population. Yep. Because that's a great thing to campaign for. Kamala.
Yeah.
That's definitely what we all want to be campaigning for. Killing children. Oh wait, Kamala's already been advocating that for a while.
My goodness.
Hey, console document. Took you long enough, little man.
Hey, look, decided to join the show.
Decided to join the party just an hour late.
Welcome to the party, pal.
This is not the time for this.
What, Die Hard references? It's
No.
always a time for Die Hard references.
Okay, well, we do have to move on.
We do. And
We're not even halfway through all the
another
stories yet.
But, this is like, okay, that was story one of somebody who had a gaffe. Story two of somebody who had a gaffe was RFK. What were his comments, Stephen?
All right, so RFK Jr. denies comments on ethnically targeted COVID-19 were anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
So, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. denied allegations of racism and anti-Semitism Saturday after he reportedly suggested that COVID-19 could have been genetically engineered to reduce risks to Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people.
Mm-hmm.
So, after a broad backlash to his comments, first reported by the New York Post, Kennedy took to Twitter to defend himself, calling the reporting mistaken and writing that he did not believe that COVID-19 had been deliberately engineered against specific ethnicities. I have never ever suggested that COVID-19 was targeted to spare Jews. Instead, he claimed he had meant to express his belief the United States and other governments were developing ethnically targeted bioweapons, broadly citing a 2021 study on genetic susceptibility to COVID-19 as proof of concept that such bioweapons could be created. See,
I've heard that. Have you heard that concept?
Yes, but I think it has much more to do. Like, the topic of like genetically and topically introduced bioweapons or like diseases that specifically target specific genetic factors has something that's been discussed for quite a while. The interesting aspect of it is that, or at least what he's trying to say, is that he's trying to link the fact that there's a higher mortality amongst blacks and a specific and whites. The interesting thing, of course, is that a specific type of Jews in the UK had actually higher fatalities than like other types of Jews. So it was like saying that it was specifically linked to specific genetic predispositions is one thing, but we do have to also consider that in the United States and around the world, that black populations are more susceptible to disease just because of their predisposition to certain things like heart disease and strokes, which are the largest killers pretty much every year.
But I remember hearing somewhere, like I think they talked about that there are certain things that are true of certain ethnic minorities that groups that you can basically exploit. Like for example, I think I heard that and don't quote me on this. I think this is what they said, is that certain Asian populations have more ACE2 receptors, which is why they were more susceptible to COVID than some other groups or something like that. And so there are biological, ethnic differences in certain groups. There's a reason, I think, why Native Americans in North America are biologically more predisposed towards alcoholism than other ethnic groups, right? So the theory is that you could potentially
to shocking degrees.
You could potentially engineer bioweapons that specifically target people of like very specific ethnic groups or something like that. I'm not sure how viable that is, but it sounds like something that they're either working on or that they've kind of like maybe gotten to. It's crazy to think, but yeah, that's something that could potentially happen in modern warfare. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Imagine creating a bioweapon that only kills Russians.
Yeah. Well, there was actually a story of it was in a show that I used to watch. You've heard of the Limitless movie, right?
Yes, I have.
Not a great movie. Not a great movie.
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
The TV show is better.
Okay.
They had a TV show which was based on the same premise. And it basically had Bradley Cooper was kind of this, like, he was trying to hoard all the supply for himself. And so this guy was basically given this temporary supply, and he was working with the FBI to, like, solve specific crimes. And so there was one case in which, like, there was this company that designed a very specific virus to only target descendants of Genghis Khan.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it was very... The ending of that episode was funny, because they're like, okay, like, we're going to have a warrant, and we're going to, like, search, and they're like, yeah, but if we get a warrant, then he'll just, like, scrub all the servers. And so he, like, quickly types out this mass email, and he's like, hi, everyone. And he's like, don't need to get anybody's names, don't need to get any contact information, but if you send me an anonymous email about whether your boss is conducting this experimental research...
Wow.
Then, yeah, like, you could totally send that, because I have a feeling that you all consider your boss to be a dick. And he just, like, hears this, like, boop, 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 boop. And he's like, sounds like you're under arrest for being a dick. I'm like, this shit was funny.
All right. Well, speaking of someone else who's also a dick, and actually, this was more not accidental, but legitimate.
Yep.
Let's talk about Pramila Jayapal. They're literally, they are everywhere in the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many
Anti-Semites everywhere.
Yeah, legitimate anti-Semites.
So Pramila Jayapal was doubled down on her anti-Semitic statements from the weekend, calling Israel a racist state, and then attempting to claim victim status for the international condemnation she received in response. In an interview with the Seattle Times, Jayapal says it's not right to call out progressives, but then not recognize that most of us are getting called out are women, black, brown, immigrants. You cannot just skip over that. She also claimed there's a double standard against progressives.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be talking about double standards, honey. I think you should just sit down. My
Yeah.
God.
So this is a video of her saying that Israel is a racist state.
I'll just leave. Maybe I should just walk off.
Guys, can I say something? Can I say something as somebody that's been in the streets and has participated in a lot of demonstrations? I want you to know that we have been fighting to make it clear that Israel is a racist state, that the Palestinian people deserve self-determination.
No, they don't.
No. How many Jews? Hey, by the way, Stephen, how many Jews are in Gaza?
I have no idea, actually.
None. There's like literally no Jews, the actual Jews, in Gaza itself. But there's countless Palestinians all throughout Israel, like the actual country, that are integrated, work and have families and have lives and all that kind of stuff. What a horribly racist state that they allow all these people to have like full lives. Oh my God, the racism is unbearable. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that people who say George Soros is bad, and they say like, oh, you're an anti-Semite. You can't criticize George Soros. He's like, oh, the entire nation
of Israel is bad.
Is
yeah, that's
racist.
fine. That's fine.
Totally good. Yeah, queen. Yeah, keep it going.
Yes.
So brave, so beautiful. It's like, speaking of double standards, the fact that she has the nerve to claim that there's this double standard. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I can't be criticized for my words.
Yeah.
My words are
dare
beautiful
you?
and perfect. How dare you? It's like, I'm special. Oh my gosh. These people are they're basically a satire of themselves.
Oh, they are.
Like
it's
insane.
absolutely, it's a joke. It is an absolute joke. But we have to continue to move on. So
let's do it.
Democrat Representative compares abortion to headache medication. So a Democratic representative compared the abortion pill mifepristone to the headache and pain reliever Tylenol, even referring to the abortion pills as a lifeline for women. Cori Bush, another one of these crazies, made the comments during a discussion on medication abortion access and Republican efforts to ban abortion nationwide. Bush was joined by fellow Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, including Jamie Raskin and Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett. Banning medication abortion would be like placing a ban on Tylenol or a ban on antibiotics. There is no scientific, no valid medical reason to do so. It is only political propaganda. Missouri Congresswoman claimed the pills were effective and safe, and they were no different than any other medication that's safe and effective. Oh,
wait, hold on. You're saying it's safe and effective?
Safe and
You're saying
effective.
it's safe and effective? That's
Yeah.
what you're going with. That's what you're going. Oh my gosh. Like I said, they're a satire of themselves.
It's a satire of themselves, yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's laughable.
Oh,
Laughable.
They're almost writing their own Babylon Bee headlines. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yes.
like the idea that abortion, drugs are like Tylenol or antibiotics is so laughable.
Yeah,
it's like
it's a joke.
Tylenol is meant to help with headaches. It has there's no ethical conundrums about Tylenol. None whatsoever. Antibiotics save lives and actually keep people alive. Unlike abortion, which every successful abortion kills lives. My goodness, these people. Not to mention that abortion drugs of all kind are incredibly risky and dangerous. The movie Unplanned demonstrated that, and they kind of showed what that could look like. I'm not saying that that's everyone, but anytime you take very serious medicine,
you actually have a very interesting, because this whole narrative came to light during COVID, and it's the same kind of practice for abortion as it is for the jibby jabs.
Okay.
Where if there is a side effect, if there is a negative reaction, if there is someone who needs to go to the hospital, then they'll claim it's unrelated. Like, there's a reason that ambulances, when they had to go to abortion clinics, ambulances would come around to the back so that there wouldn't be images leaked to the press of people being escorted out. Like, I remember it was this massive deal in Texas. Like, I forget that one, I think it was Heidi, The woman in Texas who did this where she stood on the steps. I forget her name. But she was advocating against a bill that would demand that abortion providers had to have hospital admitting privileges. So this bill would make it so that if you were performing an abortion in Texas, then you had to have hospital admitting procedures in case they went to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no, we can't do that.
Well, because they want to hide it always.
Yeah. They want to hide the fact that all these patients, it's a pipeline. Mm-hmm. And there was actually an investigative reporter, and he did a sting, and he watched how many times ambulances showed up to this one abortion clinic in St. Louis. I think they showed up an average of about once every 2 days.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's one clinic. That's absolutely insane. I would love to find the source for it. It was years ago.
These are like horror chambers.
Yeah, they are.
Like they are like haunted house. Like like when you go to those like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
these places are just dark places.
Well, it's interesting because people are like, oh my gosh, like you're just pointing to Gosnell. Gosnell was this one example. No, Gosnell was not an outlier. Gosnell was the norm. And you guys just treat him as though he's an outlier because it makes your narrative look better. Kermit Gosnell was not this crazy out there abortionist.
No.
He was a regular run-of-the-mill abortionist because these people defy the law and they skirt around it in every way they can because their entire purpose is about making as much money off of human beings as they possibly can.
Not to mention that, Kermit Gosnell was just one part of the entire picture. He was protected by a lot of people in all around there, from like the government to the police to all sorts of like powerful people. That basically, the only reason why he was charged is because they couldn't hide it anymore. It became too public, and so they basically had no choice but to let it happen. But you have to remember, a lot of people fought hard to try to make that story go away and to pretend like he was like some kind of like a fluke or something like that. It's did you watch that? Did you have a chance, Stephen? Last Friday, Tim Pool had like the Culture War podcast, and he had this drag queen on the show.
No, I haven't gotten around to watching that yet.
Okay, so that drag queen is that drag queen basically demonstrates how to be a professional con artist.
Yeah.
Which, in order to be a political person that defends this stuff, you have to be an expert in how to BS your way and how to BS your way out of every question and how to find every kind of fallacious way of answering anything. These people are like legitimately evil. They find very clever ways of making evil things sound good. Like it was a clinic. I recommend you go see it. I was just getting so frustrated listening to it. I'm just like, this person is so full of it, but they're so good at making it sound like legitimate. It's incredible. But that's the one who's good at it. Now let's talk about the next person. So we've been covering some people who have said some pretty indefensible things and all sorts of blunders. I want to get your reaction and see, do you think that Mike Pence was like saying something legitimate and people just completely took it out of context? Or do you think that was a dumb way to say that and he kind of almost set himself up? I want to see what you guys think about this interaction between him and Tucker.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, have you, I know you're running for president. You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. Right. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet Your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad.
Great. Have you had a chance to listen to the entire clip?
Yes,
Stephen?
I have. Yes.
Okay. So, do you? So there's two potential options. Either A, this was a legitimately well said response, and they're just completely taking it out of context and more in a nefarious way, or maybe like in a very dishonest way, or that he basically said this and he chose a very, very poor way of saying what he actually meant. What do you think is what do you think is more likely in this scenario?
I think he had a prepared answer, and then once he had prepared an answer to an earlier question, and then he just didn't listen to the rest of the question, and then he somewhat saved himself with like how he finished the question.
Yes.
But like the way he opened it was just like, huh? So like those who are cutting off his statement at "that's not my concern," it's being deliberately disingenuous, because he does say it's like, well, like Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad, and like my concern is for the American people. So like he does kind of negate that statement of "that's not my concern," but it seemed like that's more a jab against Pence for not paying attention. That's like me when I'm trying to do something during the live stream because I'm handling all the tech stuff, and I'm just like, and you're like reiterating the question. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
I should not have that.
Well, okay, so like I'll put it this way, like so Pence, like if we watch that whole interaction, the way he looks just annoyed and pissed off the entire time he's listening.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are not doing a good job of presenting yourself, first of all. Secondly, okay, so the way that Tucker, so they were talking about Ukraine, and like like Pence was saying, like we need to send more military support to Ukraine, and Tucker was basically like, whoa. Okay, why are you so focused on helping Ukraine when America is falling apart? Now, you have to like respond in a thoughtful way, and I think maybe you're right. Maybe he had a way of answering initially, but that was a big blunder.
It was,
because when he said was "that's not my concern." What people hear when they hear that is "I don't care." Now he kind of had to kind of do a little damage control, but really that was a really poor way to answer that question, and especially with such a really careless way of saying that. Like Donald Trump has been taken out of context for much better statements where they completely and totally took it out of context and it's indefensible. But this is the kind of thing where if Mike Pence were the leader and that the media is going to go after him, that's the kind of verbal blunder that would define his presidency, right there.
Yep.
So yeah, it's sad. I think there's no way he's going to win. I don't think he should win. I think he's I don't know. He's not the best kind of person. He's not the kind of person that. However, someone that the American may need is Vivek. What happened with him, Stephen?
Yep. So Vivek from Breitbart.
I love this guy.
Yeah, Vivek is definitely, the way that he talks is actually very interesting. Majority view Vivek Ramaswamy favorably. So this week's survey released Tuesday found former President Donald Trump maintaining his long-held status, with 73% viewing him favorably. 64% view Governor DeSantis favorably, 2 points less than the 66% who said the same 2 weeks ago. 21% continue to view him unfavorably, which is the same figure as last week. The biggest trend seems to be Ramaswamy's wise, as he lately struggled with name recognition at the beginning of his bid. Last week, 49% viewed him favorably, compared to 13% who did not. This week, he broke the majority threshold to 53% viewed him favorably, compared to the 13% who did not. Another 23% they had never heard of him.
Yeah, well, that actually works in his favor.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
So, it's really interesting. I think, like, if DeSantis is being smart,
Mhm.
then, like, Ramaswamy has the mojo.
He has charisma.
He
That's
has
something
charisma.
something that DeSantis
He
does not have.
just does not have, like, nobody knows anything basically about him.
Mhm.
And that's one of his biggest disadvantages in this race, in that he has virtually no name recognition until the race.
Mhm.
So, like, if the DeSantis campaign was smart, then it'd be like, okay, well, Ramaswamy's campaign is doing good things.
Mhm.
Like, we have the name recognition. Let's borrow some of their tactics, modify them a little bit,
Mhm. Learn a little bit
and
from
then
it.
use it. Because, like, DeSantis, everybody agrees that DeSantis is a fantastic leader.
Mhm.
He's just a poor campaigner.
And poor
Poor
public
presenter.
speaker. Yeah.
Yes.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
Like I know you and I can both name a whole bunch of missteps and mistakes that have really kind of like hurt Trump and DeSantis.
Mm-hmm.
Can you actually think of a misstep or something that Vivek has done or said
Yes.
you would consider a misstep?
Yes.
Okay, what do you got?
The one thing which I would consider to be a major misstep for Ramaswamy is that Vivek has openly pledged that he would encourage transgender servicemen in the military.
Okay. So
that would be-
he's not fully behind the social conservative
Yeah.
conservative position. Yeah.
So that would be the one gaffe that I've seen so far from him.
Now, is that a gaffe or is that more like,
Oh yeah, that's
policy
more of like a
decision
policy
you don't
decision
like?
that's not fantastic.
Yeah, so that's a policy decision that turns you off. But as far as a gaffe, an actual action, like things he said or things he's done on the actual campaign trail that has hurt him, I think that's one thing I found interesting. The guy, I've seen him in so many interviews so far, and the guy is just like he's just liquid fire.
Yeah.
He has a really decent answer for everything.
Like I did like his policy about getting rid of the FBI.
Yeah.
Like his answer for getting rid of the FBI. It was funny because Glenn Beck was just like, whoa. And it's
then,
like, you know what? He's not entirely wrong.
Or like what he talked about the, what do you call it, the getting rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah.
And then he also talked about how he deal with the war in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's kind of got a point. Like we're missing the forest for the trees.
Yes.
He's like, the bigger threat is Russia and China, like teaming up against us, not Russia versus Ukraine. He's like, you have to get a peace deal. I'm like, dang, that's actually a really good answer. Well done, man.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens
All right.
with Vivek. So next story.
So let's quickly
Tucker
go
Carlson
through these next media stories. Tucker
creating
Carlson
a
creating
new
new
media
media
company.
company. So he's creating a new media company. Is it just called? Does it have
Does
a
it have
name yet?
for it? I don't know.
No.
But basically, like, the idea is that like he's planning to launch a new media company, right?
He's basically the only anchor who has the ability to start a new media company.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be interesting, especially with the news from Post Millennial that Threads is unraveling. Traffic on Zuckerberg's Twitter alternative plummets in the second week.
Yeah.
So whereas Musk announced that Twitter usage was up 3.5%. So yeah, people got tired of the censorship.
You know what else Elon did that completely decimated them?
What? Oh, he paid users?
He made paid users a thing. Suddenly everyone's
Elon,
like,
you didn't give anything to us.
Thread
Where's our money?
What?
Oh, I was saying Elon didn't give anything to us. Where's our money?
That's right. Like, it's amazing how quickly people forgot about Threads. The second money was being offered by Twitter. They're like, I can make money off my millions of subscribers on Twitter. Yes, please. It's like, yeah. So yeah, it's looking like Threads might have had a very short life. So
yeah,
we shall see.
But this is the craziest part. Threads
What?
has decreased by more than 50% in its second week.
Traffic on Threads.
Yes. But still, like, traffic is a serious indicator of how things are
Usage.
going.
Yep.
And if it's dropped by 50% in the second week, shows that it just does not have the ability to maintain usership.
Yep. I think the only thing I had going for it was when it first came out, there was a lot of groundswell, like a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's this new thing? And then when people use it, they're like, "This thing sucks."
It's so buggy and glitchy and all this crap.
Yes, and so said Sorius that it just basically shot itself in the foot. Way to go,
Yeah.
dumb people. Okay,
But speaking
but
of
like-
shooting themselves in the foot, dumb people, let's talk
Yeah.
about Disney. Disney
That was
backtracks
great.
over
That was
Snow
great. I
White
like that.
anti-woke backlash. Set pics were real. So when exclusive photos on the set of Disney's live-action adaptation of Snow White were leaked last week, the internet reacted like someone had poisoned their apple. The pictures, published by the Daily Mail, featured Snow White accompanied by not by 7 little men, but by actors of different genders, ethnicities, and heights.
So basically, it's Latino White, or
Yeah.
and
It's
the
Snow
7
Lati-
roommates.
Well, Matt Walsh had the best way to putting it. It's
Okay, what'd
Snow
he say?
Latino and the 7 hippie hobos.
Yeah, that works. That works.
Because that's exactly what they look like.
It's
'Cause
exactly.
where's the picture? This is the picture. The 7 hippie hobos.
It is really, really, really crazy.
And of course the person who's playing Snow White said that the movie is going to fix Snow White by making it less white. I'm
Of
like,
course. That's how you
dang,
fix-
that's racist, woman.
That's how you fix a story. My
Yeah.
goodness. By the way,
Right.
I know that Peter Dinklage was one of the factors.
Yes, he
in
was.
this. Like he kind of complained, like, how dare you, dwarves? Quick question: are dwarves essentially like the same concept or idea as elves? That they're not real people; they're actually mystical creatures. What do you think?
Well, I think that because dwarfism is an actual condition, then people are saying it's like, oh, well, like because there was a backlash because of Peter Dinklage, because he's like, oh, like it's racist and it's ableist to only cast people with dwarfism. But then other people with dwarfism were like, well, it's
what the hell, man?
discriminatory to cast normal people and not use. And so they're just like, screw it, we're just casting everybody.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be all over the place, and it's definitely a film that will not be watched. The best reaction, of course, was from Disney themselves, because at first they said the pictures were fake, and then people were like, huh? But you already said that this girl was going to be in the production. And they're like, oh, wait, let's correct this. It's not fake, it's just not an official release.
Oh.
And so it's like, then they're not fake. You're just ashamed that these pictures are from your production because you're ashamed and feeling a little guilty at all the backlash you're getting because your product is garbage.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: Disney's making my life a lot easier.
It is.
All I have to do is look at what they're planning for the next movie, and I can plan like months and months ahead about movies that I'm going to avoid like the plague. Like it was like watching The Ring. That's what I feel like about watching these movies. I'm like, you literally could not like strap me down to a chair and tie me up and force me to watch this movie. I would literally be like I just wouldn't. That's what I did with The Little Mermaid. I was so pissed at The Little Mermaid. I'm like, you are erasing gingers.
Yeah,
Ginger
erasing
erasure.
a lot of things. Ginger
That's right.
erasure.
That's right. It's a real thing.
Okay, so let's talk about some Canadian stories to finish up in like the last 20 minutes or so. So, from Daily Hive Canada, and as I've said before, Daily Hive Calgary had an article about me.
Oh,
yes.
What was the one?
That was back in March.
Okay.
When they lied about me.
Back when Stephen was like, public enemy number one in Calgary. That's right.
So Justin Trudeau was met with a wave of boos during his open remark at the North American Indigenous Games in Halifax on Sunday. The video shared on TikTok, some of the crowd can be heard booing the Prime Minister during his speech when they thought it was a good idea to bring Justin Trudeau to the opening ceremony at NAG. Lol, said one video caption. So let's watch this. and listen to it. It should be entertaining.
Hmm.
Wait, what?
You have to unmute the sound there.
Yeah,
I
but
found this too. There you go. Play.
Boo!
Lots of boos. And the second video below. Second video below that.
There is?
Well, I don't know where you are. You're on TikTok. That's what
Apparently
happened.
I'm on TikTok.
Yeah.
There we
And
go.
this video.
Oh, that's why it was... There we go. Yep. You get what
by
you
the way-
deserve, jackass.
Trudeau's getting like tossed aside by a lot of the groups that used to support him. The Native Americans, like or Canadians, they're tossing him aside. They hate him.
The Muslims.
The Muslims are like full on hating him. Parents are hating him now. I mean, it's just Trudeau cannot catch a break right now. He is by far the most hated politician ever. I mean, if you were Stephen, if you were at a Calgary Flames game, like Calgary versus Toronto, and you suddenly saw Justin Trudeau on the ice and be like giving you some kind of like flaky progressive speech about unity and all that kind of stuff, would you be excited? Would you be like, "Yay, the Prime Minister's here"?
No.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like that's what I think of like within this event, like the Native Games. I was like, I'm sure nobody there is excited to see Trudeau, and they're probably a little pissed that they brought this guy in. So I was actually a little bit upset that he decided to come to the Calgary Stampede. I don't care about the Stampede, but I care that he's there. And I'm like, I don't want him there. Do not bring like that guy to my city. Like he's going to contaminate us. Like progressive leprosy.
Yep. All right. So let's continue on with our Canadian stories.
Bring it on.
So, Muslim parents. Angry with Trudeau over dismissing their LGBTQ curriculum protest, lying or misinformed. So let's watch the video of him talking to this parents and then their reaction.
Or you mean talking down to the parents?
Yes, talking down to this parent.
Media, particularly fueled by the American right wing, are spreading a lot of untruths about
A challenging.
So we've gone to one or two of these protests.
Mm-hmm.
This is produced by Mocha Bazirgan.
Yeah, he's good.
And yeah, I saw him a few times when I was at the protest a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that guy's really good.
Yeah.
No, having a tough time loading?
Apparently.
Ugh, Twitter, come on.
Yeah, they need to work on this. Their servers get overwhelmed with video stuff really easily. I'll refresh the page. Last ditch effort.
Let's see if this happens.
media, particularly fueled by the American made a political campaigns right
There we go.
control what's taught in schools.
There we go.
That's the provincial government that controls what's taught in schools. So,
Under encouragement from the
that's not
feds.
something that is directly on the federal government. But at
Yeah.
the same time, the federal government is
Same time.
critical of standing for everyone's rights and freedoms.
Unless you're unvaccinated.
And the highest expression of parental rights is, of course, the safety and well-being of the child. Right? Your concern as a community is for the safety, the well-being, the strength and the protection for your children. I entirely understand.
But you don't want it.
No, you don't.
The one thing that is really, really important in Canada is the workplace that stands up for everybody's rights.
Unless you're a
And
parent.
certainly when it comes to the Muslim community, this government has, well, we were the government that pushed back against the conservatives that made a political campaign against the UCAP.
For good reason.
That
was
brought
back.
in a snitch line against Muslims.
That was all
The
back.
Islamophobia pushed by the previous conservative government and a whole bunch
That's
of
not true.
rights
No.
was something that we always stood against. Now,
No.
this government has been and will always be the strongest ally to all minority communities.
That's
No.
not even true. Not at all.
Particularly Muslims who have faced terrible violence.
Nope.
Look at the black Muslim women in Edmonton.
Yep. We'll talk about the Muslim kids who were called out by that teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But
By the way,
yeah, a whole bunch of pseudo events.
This guy's a professional BS artist. Like, he's
Yes.
a con artist. He knows how to play the game, how to say the talking points and all that. Ultimately, in this interview, he basically tells these parents, these are like that your concerns are invalid. Why? Because you're dumb. And you let American conservatives fool you with their magical false misinformation. You guys are dumb and you fell for it, the dummies. And I'm here to basically educate you about how you're crazy and none of this is happening. And even if it is happening, it's good. It's amazing the way that this guy talks down to these people, saying your concerns are totally legitimate because you're dumb and you listen to the American conservative. It's insane, right? This is the kind of thing. The funny thing is, all of this stuff came from the American system. The indoctrination of kids, the transgender craze and all that. All of this came and spilled over from America. So he doesn't even have it right. It's not that the pushback and the stuff came from America. Is that the indoctrination of kids and the forced transgenderism that they're trying to inculcate with everybody. It all came from the States. So this guy's he's a professional con artist.
Mhm.
So watch out for him. Snake oil salesman.
Yep.
What do we do?
Yeah, let's read the reaction.
Mhm.
So, to this conversation, Muslim parents say Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is either lying or is misinformed after he blamed the American right wing for Canadian Muslims' opposition to gender ideology. It's shocking that Trudeau would use the same kind of silly arguments that are being used in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they don't have anything else to say other than accuse parents who are truly concerned and want to pass on their religious teachings to their kids and say it's right-wing manipulation. It's just sad. He's either lying or he's misinformed. The curriculum is there. Everyone can read it. Trudeau spoke with the Muslim community last week at a Calgary mosque. According to the video from the meeting, one Muslim parent asked Trudeau to please protect our culture, our belief in the sin that you're doing to them. And then, of course, he has a whole bunch of BS and lies. But this is textbook Trudeau.
Mm-hmm.
Trudeau will be asked a very simple question, and then just like everyone in the Liberal cabinet, it's not that we're doing it. It's that the Conservatives are making it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And it's but the Conservatives have been out of power for almost 10 years. But the Conservatives have made life difficult for everyone. It's but they don't, you're a minority government.
It's the ghost of Stephen Harper.
Yeah,
back
it's the
again.
ghost of Stephen Harper is ruining Canada.
8 years.
8 years later.
He still dominates your life, and
it's beyond ridiculous.
It's
beyond
never
ridiculous.
Never their fault. It's always the Conservative fault. Trudeau is a complete con artist.
Yeah, he is the worst prime minister we have ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, ever. I don't think we'll ever have somebody worse than him. But then let's talk about the last thing. So, the counter signal actually showed something that was interesting, and that was that Edmonton police admit crime is now out of control. That sucks because I have a friend who's actually moving to Edmonton to go to school, and I'm like, well, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck in that city.
So after another random murder, Edmonton police have admitted crime is so out of control that it's chaos and advise citizens to avoid interacting with anyone who gives them even remote suspicion.
Wow.
So I can't read most of this, but the public advisory follows the horrific Sunday night murder of a 52-year-old Rukinish. Yeah.
because
You
I don't
have-
know why. For some reason, I got full access. I'm not really sure why.
I'll refresh and maybe? Nope.
Maybe
it's not.
Oh, I don't know why. Yeah, it's weird. Basically, the story is like the public advisory follows a horrific Sunday murder of a 52-year-old Rukinisha. Not even going to try that name. A father of 7. He was randomly stabbed to death by a thug who was out on bail violating his house arrest. On Friday, Detective Jared Buehler gave a grim warning to Edmontonians. Don't become involved in any interaction with anybody who gives you any sense of uncertainty because you could literally end up with a knife in your chest. He said, this was a sudden violent attack and shocking. He had a rap sheet, like a very lengthy criminal rap sheet. He was out on bail and living in a tent near Belvedere Transit Center and was ordered not to be anywhere near an LRT station. So, again, another one of those people that dangerous, violent offenders, like, oh, here's your bail, get back out there and reoffend. The mayor of Edmonton wrote a letter to Justice Minister David Lametti begging for immediate action on bail reform. So it sounds like the cities are being handcuffed by like bad bail reform because the bail reform is basically set by the federal government, and even if you arrest people, they're going to basically be out on the street like pretty quick. So it sounds like this is a problem that has been essentially laid out onto us by the federal government. Here's what he says. I struggled to comprehend why someone who could be at risk to others was released into our city without a plan in place to ensure that they would not re-offend. He said that since 2020, 26 homicides have been committed in Edmonton by someone who was arrested for a violent offense and then released on bail. That sucks. Yeah, so basically this bail reform is absolutely demolishing Edmonton right now. And it's becoming a very, very dangerous city. So yeah, watch out if you're.
All right. So the final story we're going to quickly talk about, just kind of mention it, is our home city, Calgary. Support for mayor councillors stubbornly low. Midway through their term, the new Think HQ study shows that Calgarians' view on the city council is decidedly negative. The survey, which was released late Wednesday afternoon, asked 1,116 Calgarians to rate their councillors and mayoral performance since the last municipal election. Jody Gondek currently sits at 36% approval. Public affairs firm added support for the mayor is soft compared with the intense opposition. 1 in 10 Calgarians voiced strong approval for the mayor. 26% somewhat approve. The survey found while 1 in 4 voiced strong opposition, 15% somewhat disapprove. So we got to get those numbers up. Come on. She's terrible.
Those are rookie numbers.
So women are apparently more positive in their outlook of the mayor, while men are more likely to disapprove of her.
Women are super agreeable. This is why like most liberal, like and transgender, like all the crazy things that happen in the States are almost entirely by like, suburban white women. They're the ones that are causing all our problems. Not the patriarchy, it's you suburban white women. My goodness, you're killing us here, people. You're killing us. My goodness. I'm actually glad to hear that Calgarians are very unhappy with their counselors, because I'm hoping that means that some of these counselors will be maybe like looking for a new home, and next time the election comes around, because they're terrible. There's a terrible like city council. So yeah, good old Canada.
The only good city councilor is mine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you've told me stories about him. And Sean Chu. Actually, what was the other guy that was there before? The Gian something like he was kind of like he seemed somewhat conservative, but didn't he get like ousted?
Yeah, he got ousted.
He got ousted. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came up with the hit piece about him, which I was like, this is stupid.
Well, the hit piece about I just remember the hit piece about Sean Chu was so stupid. Because it was just like...
They always are.
Okay, guys. Like, she got into the bar with a fake ID. How was he supposed to know that she was underage? It's not his job to check her ID. If she's in the bar, that means she got ID'd.
You assume that they're there because
that they're legal.
They've been legal. They've been checked.
And then, of course, she eventually told him, and he immediately got her a cab and sent her home.
Good for him.
So, like, not guilty of anything.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter. Like the media is like, professional.
The woke mob will always come after those who oppose them. So,
yeah, my goodness.
Sean Chu may not be perfect, but he's the best we've got.
And that's
saying something.
Statement.
I remember I did have a conversation with him, and because I was talking to him about the mandates, and he's like, yeah, like the way that they pushed that through city council was like dishonest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was telling him about some things, and he's like, I didn't know about any of that. And I'm like, okay, then. It's good you should look that stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, that's where we're going to end today's show.
There we go.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you've been watching us on our video platforms, such as video platforms, BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. And of course, like, comment, share, subscribe. If you're following us on our text platforms, such as Gitter, Twitter, Facebook, and our website at theshrewddudes.com, then give us a review, tell us how we're doing. And of course, if you wish to join our open mic next Thursday, then you can. I will have the link on several Twitter posts in the coming week. And of course, I'll also link it to our Facebook page. And that's generally where we have our guest server, and we have some back and forth discussion about stuff that's going on. And that's where we host our discussion on Discord next Thursday. So that will, of course, all be going down at 8 p.m. Mountain Time next Thursday. And we're hoping to have a very lively discussion. Last time I believe we had 5 people in the chat. So let's be hoping for 6 or 7. Let's hope for somebody from the other side, maybe.
Let's go for 30. It'll be chaos.
No,
Chaos, I tell you.
Let's not have 30.
It'll be anarchy.
30 would be like, okay, well, now we have to schedule you.
Yeah. You have 5 seconds to speak and go.
Yes, exactly. So, with that being said, we will see everyone on Thursday for our regularly scheduled show. And until then, I hope everyone has a fantastic night. And, as always, we'd like to remind you, here at the Shrewd Dudes Podcast, why be rude when you can be shrewd? Have a great night, everybody. And as always, God bless.
Good night, everybody.